Hey, this is Brook with Printrbot.com, and we are doing a Printrbot Smalls Z upgrade. So you can see the parts laid out here. I've actually got some wires here. There's wires. So this kit will come, and you will either be in the middle of your build, and you haven't even put together the 6-inch Z, because you knew you wanted the bigger stuff, and that's the only way we sell it with all these parts for the base kit. Or you may have ordered a base kit, put it together, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to build this Z upgrade to add up the Z height, and you may have to tear it down. So whether you're coming up towards where we start or you're tearing down to where we start, I'll leave that up to you. But I did, in fact, before I get into the wiring, which is the first thing I want to hit, second thing I want to hit, I want to show you this. This, if you're tearing down to get ready for this build, this is almost what it will look like, but I wanted to show you what this Z upgrade does. This comes with the Z upgrade comes with 12 millimeter bars, and you're going to get an extra, what is that, 4 inches, I believe? 4 inches extra. But because these are so solid, we do not need this plate anymore. So you're going to dump the Z 8 millimeter bars. You're going to dump this plate, and actually we have to replace this because the 12 millimeter, you can kind of see the 8 millimeter bearings are tucked behind here. We're going to put 12 millimeter bearings, and there was no way to make a plate that's universal because it's just different requirements. So we're going to switch out to this plate. So that's all of this here is going to be thrown away, and I'll even throw away this printed part. But I just staged this just real lightly, so I'll show you what I mean. This whole piece is going to come out. So, not the motor. We want to save the motor. I've only got one screw in it just to mark its place here. But this whole piece with the X motor block, you could even leave these together. You don't have to tear it totally down. Maybe you want to go put that back on someday, but that is going to be set aside. And you're going to look like this. Now, the bed could be off. Maybe you haven't got that far. But the part that is shared is the Z. I actually have a small motor on this one. This is one we have in-house. Yours is going to be a little bit bigger. But we've got the Z block on there, secured, plugged in. And this is where we're going to start once we start getting these mechanical parts together. But I'd like to show you the electronics here. So you're going to get some extensions. When you go up 4 inches taller, you're going to need extra wires. And so we're going to replace each of these wires. I've done this once already. I've labeled these. They're not going to be labeled in your pack, but I like to label my motors because they all kind of look similar when they come in here. Label those. There are 2 end stops. In this particular build, I labeled that Y. So anyway, just a little tip. Once you get it all plugged in correctly, and if you ever have to take it apart for any reason, you're going to thank yourself for labeling these parts. But right now, we only have one one heater for the extruder. The heater for the bed looks totally different. This is the extruder thermistor, so I put E on that. This is a fan. So let me just real quickly replace all those. Now we do send some heat shrink, and this heat shrink actually can go around when you couple 2 wires together. Let's do one. I need the E. You always match up the colors of the wire, so I got red to red. Now this heat shrink, I know it sounds obvious, but it will shrink when you heat it. It does have a specific temperature, but you can use a lighter, and it will just shrink right up. It'll actually, I don't know if we have an example. I do. Here's another one. It'll end up looking like this. So here's a motor wire. It'll shrink up quite a bit. and it will hold those together because you don't want to be in the middle of a print and have that happen. So all of these wires should either be heat shrunk, or you could wrap some electrical tape around it. I wouldn't want you to glue it, then you'll never get it apart. But for now, because I don't want to take the time to heat shrink, I just wanted to show you what comes in the kit and how you do it. So put this aside. So you will not see me put heat shrink on here today, but that is your job, so you do it. All right, so here we go. E. Got a Y motor. That's Y. Match the colors. Plug it into Y. We'll just go around here. So this is the extruder. Now you've got a red and a black wire. That's to indicate polarity, but I'll let you in on a little secret. It doesn't need to match on this wire. They're both black. If I reverse this, it doesn't matter. The heater doesn't care. It's just a wire that electricity goes through, so it doesn't really matter. So that one, don't stress out. We know that they're both black, and that's intentional. Heat shrink that. Coming around the bend here to our end stop. This is a Y end stop. The X end stop is so close on the board, it'll reach. So we're moving past X, going to Y. And here it is again. Why do we have two yellow wires? They don't match. That's because all this end stop is doing is closing a connection. So there is no polarity in an end stop, and you don't have to stress over it. So it'll be all yellow. You can match the wires if you have a black and a yellow if you want, but it doesn't matter. This is the Z sensor, which acts as an end stop. But the polarity on this does absolutely matter. Plug this in backwards, you just bricked your sensor. I think it ruins your sensor. So double check that one. Make sure to heat shrink that. That's the Z sensor. So we're giving ourselves extra length here. To left, we've got a fan and a thermistor. Now the fan, I got away from me. The fan, the polarity totally matters. You want to plug that in correctly, red to red. That's here all by its lonesome. And then there's two thermistor plugins over here. Thermistor measures resistance. And you can go either direction on a wire to measure resistance. I mean, it doesn't matter. So you're not going to worry about how that's plugged in because there's two white here and this is black and white. Trust us, you'll be fine. It's just resistance. So now you see the extra length. I've given myself extra length. And I've even got this fancy braid that you would want to mess with all of that first. Put all that braid on. But I'm leaving this blank so I can work with it easily, save a little time. So just to recap, you're going to put this braid on after you heat shrink everything, and then you're going to plug it in. But by that time, you should have everything labeled. So that's the electronics, and it'll end up looking like this. All right? But yeah, get that braid on there first. You can either just go over this and cut it short, or remove this short one and replace it with this longer one. And it will, believe it or not, it will reach over all of these once you've got it all heat shrunk. It'll reach over all that. This can get very, very wide. This stuff is crazy. It's fun to play with. All right, good on the electronics. We'll set that aside. We'll need that in a minute. All right, so here I'm left with the remainder. Let's see. Right here, I've either stripped it down or I have built it up to this point. So the trickiest part of this is instead of a plastic block that we set aside, this one, we're not going to use this. We've got this crazy machined block that is going to go on here, and it's going to hold the bars at the bottom, and this one, a little more plain looking, is going to hold the bars at the top. So you're going to end up with, these with bars. Now, this machine part here, like I said earlier, this is a small motor. You'll have a medium. And while small doesn't need this ledge machined out. The medium does. So it's going to sit in here something like this. You'll see it here in a second, but I just wanted to show you where we're going with this. So I'll align everything. So we're going to put this on. So by putting this on, I'm going to want to first put this X. I get those confused all the time. The X motor on. We'll need this little plate. So this little plate came with you. And you can see how it's oriented. I even put myself a little arrow to show me that's where the wire comes out. The wire will face towards the board. So it's going to go together like this. First the spacer, and then this. Cool? And then it'll lift independently, like it'll all be one piece. So I'm going to get to that. All right. So the first thing is we're going to attach this plate with 3 little M3 screws. And those came in your upgrade kit. Now I got to find all my tools. So there's only 3 holes on here that could possibly, you can screw into the motor. Where'd the other ones go? Here's another one. I said 3, but actually I believe let me look at that. Yeah, actually 2. We're not going to use this third one, so I've put 2 stainless steel M3 screws that are 6 millimeters long in the corners here, leaving that one undone. If we made a change to this part, it would actually, you'd be able to use it. But this particular part doesn't have that change, so I don't know what we're doing there. But it does work. Yep, lines up fine. So the next step, after I have the spacer on, is I'm going to use this hole and this hole with, there they are, with these screws. Oops, got the wrong one. And they thread into the spacer. So the spacer is there not only to space, but to also get the right depth off of this with that space. But it holds the motor onto the little X Z block. It holds the Z bars. It holds the X motor. I'm getting it fairly tight, but not too, I don't want to overdo it. I don't want it too tight. Just snug and maybe just a little like that. I like to use that short end when tightening because you'll be tempted if you use the long end. You got a lot more leverage. It's just, you might over tighten. Once you tear those threads out, you're screwed, basically. All right, so now we've got that little assembly together. Now, I do have 2 screws that I can put in here. These are the, was that M4, Dave? M4 12 millimeter screws. These are going to pinch the rod together. I'll show you how that works. It's pretty neat. What's cool about this part is, let's see which way, this way. What's cool about this part is we actually start with this big slab of aluminum that's really thick, and we water jet it, and then, there it is. We water jet this part, and then we've got most of the material removed in that strange shape, these 2 shapes, and then we come back in, we mount it up in our CNC, and then we finish it out. So it saves a lot of CNC time. So I don't want to get these too tight. I don't want it to start pinching, but you'll see it's a pretty good fit here. And then when you tighten that screw, it will clamp that down. So these are just clamps. See? And that's how it'll work. Okay, so we've attached the X motor with the spacer plate to the Z block with these 2 screws. Those are good and tight. Now we're safe to go ahead and we'll turn it like this, or like that, and we'll slide it in here. If you do have your belt already waiting for you, you could real quickly loop that in. And it fits right in like that. So here it is. See that? So that's where it's going to be. I'm just going to flip this upside down. And there's 3, M3, 10. 10! I just tried to put in 12s, but now I got the right size after tapping them out. So there's one. I just realized, Dave, we got a screen. I can see what's going on over there. So I'll try to be more mindful of the camera view. All right, so now those are lined up. Which way? This way. So one is there, one is here. When I have to put multiple screws in, I like to leave them nice and loose. And the third one is here. Now the block on your base smalls, I believe we utilized another hole. We're just going to leave that alone. We don't need it anymore. Okay. Again, I'm tightening with the short end so I don't over tighten. Aluminum's a soft metal. We tap it out. Now that I have everything snugged, I'm just going to double check that not use too much force. Very gentle. There's steel screws and aluminum, so the screw will tear out that aluminum if you just start to wrench on them. So we've got the Z installed right there. I like it. All right. Now I can even force this on here. Again, I'm assuming that you've built up a base smalls. Looks pretty good. I'd probably have to retension that belt. Okay, there. Anyway, so now we're ready to move on. All right. I'm going to put this aside just for a second and talk about this. Now, like I showed you earlier, this is what you're throwing away, and this is what we're replacing with. So I made some notes on this plate for me, you might see, but it's bigger. Now, all of this other stuff we don't even need, so I'm going to build this up right here in front of myself here. Okay, we're going to tackle the ZY plate, and I like to put these bearings on the bars to hold them perfectly in line. That way, if there's a problem with the holes or any misalignment doesn't happen because these bars. So we're actually going to put them under here. I'm just showing you how to mount. But of course, I need something to screw into. I've got 6 screws here. We're going to use these Plastite screws. I think they're, what are they, 1/2 inch? So I got to grab my printed parts. Now these are beautiful. We printed these in a way that they're really strong. So before I set that in and get ready to go, I just wanted to show you how to pop these in. There's a little gap in the middle, and there should be a little pop. That one, there was no pop, but I could feel it kind of stretch open for that. Just double checking. Good. Good. Now I can put that back on. So this is what we're doing next. And so this doesn't roll around. I'm going to just put one on each side. These are Phillips Plastites. I have a little magnetic screwdriver so I can. All right. Again, I've got multiple screws. I'm not going to tighten them all tight the first time. I'm going to hold them, just have them hold my place. Put them in loose. These have been put on here prior. I had this together before and I tore it down to do the build. So you will probably have a harder time because these have already dug their own, thread in there. So again, I'm not doing it too tight, because I want everything to kind of even out, and then I'll go around and tighten all of them at once. My dad taught me, I tell this story sometimes, how to change a tire. And I always thought it was weird. He said, now skip, go every other lug, or if you got a star pattern, I had a VW, he'd say, jump across and make a star. Because you don't want one to be really, 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 really tight, and that might prevent you from tightening the next one down. So it's not required on this plastic part, but I'm just telling the story. But that's what I'll do when I tighten them. I like to skip every other one. It's habit. So I'm doing this by hand, not with a power screwdriver, because you will break something. This plastic will strip out, and then you'll be wondering, well, how do I fix it? And I will tell you to go back in time and undo what you did wrong. It's possible you could heat that up, put some filament down in there, make some mucky goo, re-drill it, but you're going to do it right the first time. So these are not tight yet, so let me just go around real quick and make sure all of them are equally tight. I like them all to have the same pressure. Here. So that side's good. I forgot which way I was going. Okay, so this all feel good. And now, testing. Very good. Now, really, I don't need these bars in here right now, but it's not really going to hurt me to leave them in there for a second. It may get unwieldy when you tilt these; they tend to come out. Okay, so we're going to take the Y motor that is actually attached to all of our electronics. Is it not? No, I unplugged it. Ta-da. The Y motor. I'm going to set this on there. We actually have a trade-off in this. We're going from the small. Your base smalls has this small quarter 16, and this kit has the 4-star Acme trapezoidal. So this nut isn't going to work. You got to replace the nut. So all of this is going to be put aside, and this is going to be in between. Like that. I always mess up how that goes on. So I'm going to double check here. Well, no, that's right. Okay, so we have this little standoff here. I'll show you what we're doing. This standoff is as tall as this block. So the standoff's going to go here. As I look down on it, it's the back or the bottom left. And these are going to go here. But you can see how it's kind of a balancing act to get everything on there. So this might be slightly frustrating, but I find it's doable. Just got to look down through that standoff, line it up with the hole. Now the screws you'll be using on this, all I'm worried about is that standoff right now. I don't have to get everything aligned all at once. The screws are, I think they're 22 millimeter button head stainless steel. So there we go. Now where's my wrench? Since that's the hardest one, we'll start with the hardest one. So we got to align that on the motor. There it goes. I felt it grab. So I'm not going to tighten it too tight, it's just holding things. There we go. Come on, you. Well, I'm really bad at this. I see it. Finally. All right. Not exactly smooth, but it's in there. Holding three things together with two hands. That one went right in, of course. Now on this one, I like to leave these, not to stand up again. I like to leave these kind of loose because this matters. I'll show you what matters. You want this to be parallel to this. And if it's not, you're going to get some wobble. Looks really good though. I think we're going to be okay. Now I can always come back and tighten this before I put my Y on, so I'm not too worried about it. But those are now equally tight. Don't want to squish it too much or strip out my motor. There you go. So this is what we have so far. So next we're going to put in this bearing. I've already got the assembly here. It came off your other one. So this one's an easy one. So, can you see that okay? It's got that washer at the bottom, two bearings. Now this one can be pretty tight, but you want to check that these roll. Everything's moving nicely. Okay. All right. So, what's next? Now, I took, what would I like to do next? So let's bring the two pieces together. So here we have our base and our Z with our bars wanting to run around on us. So check this out. I can put this on. I got to align with the flat of the motor. There we go. That fits right in, fits right in. So I haven't clamped these yet, but it's moving good. All right. I'm just going to turn it around towards me because I really need to get these pretty tight. I guess I can try to do it this way, Dave. I keep forgetting there's... I'm looking for my wrench for that. It's the 3. Oh, man. I got to find the wrench. No, that's 2.5. That's 3. All right, mainly you just want to get the bar all the way down, right? And you don't have to crank down where all the metal starts to warp. It's pretty surprising how little it takes to get this bar really with a good grip, but it's reaching all the way around the bar so it gets good purchase. Just don't overdo it. So again, starting at the top, the little end feels good. It's already holding, but I'm going to give it another like 1/8 of a turn, not even that. So, now we've brought the pieces together, and I'm looking, and it moves really good. All right, so this base now is going to help me kind of help you see what's going on here. Okay? Can you see that okay, Dave? All right. Now, we could go ahead and, you know what, even if it ends up being temporary, if there's a point at which I need to take that off, I can. But here's the top of the clamps. M412s, I believe. There we go. One thing I'll show you. there's a specific way to put this on because this stuff gets in the way. I want those little bumps to be on the side that this plate is. You see what I mean? So the screws will be out the other direction. Otherwise, it'll bump into it. That's the story I'm going with, at least. So I'll go ahead. This will keep it nice and straight. The bars will be parallel all the way from the top to the bottom. I'm flushing. There's no real way to, yeah, you can see that. I'm flushing it at the top here. Like if I were to get it uneven, it wouldn't be parallel. So I'll do one at a time. Nice. There you go. Cool. I do need to put this end stop. You can only access these two screws, as I was so painfully reminded after I got the faceplate on. You can only reach it through here. So you got to put this end stop on first. I wonder if somebody watching in the chat room saw what I was doing. Was like, but we were over here on the cameras watching. So yes, Plastite, 1/2 inch long screws will secure that. It always amazes me how much you can torque on Plastites, but that's really it. So let me be gentle. You can see this from the other side. You see that? Now that's on. That was my only chance to access that. So now I got to be careful with all of these wires. Not that it's ever happened, but that end stop wire, if you start wrenching around on it, you just want to be careful. All right, so these wires are just going to have to hang out over there. This comes from your other kit. It was included with the base smalls. And we're going to S this over from the back here. The tensioner is at the top. And it's going to come over the bearing first, go almost all the way around. And then go over that. So you got smooth back of the belt on top of the bearing. And when it jumps around to the teeth, you got the teeth meshing with the teeth. So there we go. All right. Deja vu. It's almost like I've done this before. All right, just finger tight on these. I'm going to do the two corners and test it. Here's the front corner, here's the back corner. Now this is just like the smalls build, so you don't really need to see me do this, but hey, it's probably helpful for some of you that are doing this upgrade to see me go through all these steps. All right, so there's 6 screws, going to get them finger tight. Then I'm going to go around and check them to make sure all of them are equally tensioned. Finger tight plus like a 1/16, an 1/8, if that. Really thin metal, so we don't want to overdo. Okay, finger tight. Makes me want to redesign that part so I can put it on after. We're going to put the Y arm on everything. We're pretty much done with the upgrade portion, but we got to put it back together. You will remove this screw. This is a limiter screw, so a little Easter egg we put in this bot is you only get 4x4 on the build plate with the base, but the Y arm actually is built to go to 6. So I'm going to take that out now because I know I'm about to upgrade this. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. Let's be careful. line up these holes. These are also plastites going into printed parts. If you happen to screw up a printed part, you can always reprint it. That's the beauty of this kit. There we go. Ah, get in there. There we go. And the last. Ooh, I just feels like that one might be a little. There we go. Maybe time to print another part. I think I cracked it. All right. So there you have it. I'll show you how to put the electronics on. Now there's, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 things not plugged in yet. One of them is this motor. We'll do that one. And it comes to the back of the bot and it turns around in here. And it's going to mount right there. Now I've got 2 little standoffs here. I'm going to put on with plastites. And on this Z upgrade, that's actually it. You're only going to attach 2. The printed part that you put the third one into is no longer there. So don't panic. It'll be fine. Just print your case. And the case kind of helps hold it all in there. But first I've got it down here so I can see my X needs to be plugged in. And my Z needs to be plugged in. So now they're plugged in. And I'm ready to, I don't know how good they can see that, Dave, but this is what I got to do. All right, so this is where I'm going to put my standoffs. Oh, funny. I still have my screws that went into the old plate right here. So I'm going to take those out because I don't need them. They will confuse me later if I leave them. Okay. So there's 1 standoff and 2 standoffs. And they almost never stay put. So I'll probably lose one when I try to put this together. But if I'm careful, maybe I'll luck out. Hey. Okay. Now it's electronics, so be gentle. Okay, nice and sturdy there. Now I got my end stop. Now that it's secured, I can put this end stop up. Right there, the X end stop. All right, there we have it. Now, it's up to you to do your wiring sheath. It'll come like this. I'll just give you a cheat on what this is going to look like. It's going to look like that when it's done. All right, so there you have it. The Z upgrade for the Printrbot Smalls. And we put it together, in fact, some parts several times. But there we have it. Now we have to, I'll finish my wiring, and I will turn the machine on, and we'll calibrate, make sure she's running really good. Oh, you know what? I did forget the tensioning on this right here. I just noticed I haven't tightened. Let me do that real quick. Sorry, Dave, false alarm. I forgot this little dude. There we go. Now we're done. The Z upgrade for the Printrbot Smalls.